Hi everyone, welcome to the channel for a new battle report. So we had a bootcamp with Team Switzerland. I don't know exactly when I'm going to release the report, but surely after ETC, which makes sense because it's a Switzerland bootcamp. So I don't want to give too much information about my teammates list. As you know, for myself, I don't care because there is already plenty of battle report featuring my lists. I have a change, as you can see in the miniature here, top left, I have a giant in my list, so it was also for me the occasion to try out something slightly different. This battle was done before ETC release list, so I don't know yet if this is going to be my final list or not. But basically the change I made, I took out the fast cav, and instead of that I also remove, or in addition to that I also removed the tablet of Vesdovinesh and the binding scroll on the prophet. And between those two items plus the fast cav I was able to put a citizen giant Thor shield, so basically he's going to play on the mainly on the weak flank. I like the fact that he's really resilient to range damage. He has a 3-up armor save, he's soft cover, he has a parry. So I really love the setup of this giant. It's going to be an annoying piece. And basically I felt that the fast cav is basically not useful in every battle. For Infernal Dwarves you don't really need that much chaff. So I felt in some games it could be kind of a heavy chaff, and in other games that could be an additional piece that I use. And also I felt I was missing something, some single model to play on the weak flank. The overload alone is not enough and has to be in some part of the map sometimes. So I really like the fact that I have a cheaper single model than the Kadim Titan that can still be really annoying for my opponents. My opponent, Mick, was playing the following list. He's playing 2 Exalted Herald, then he has the Sorcerer, Apprentice of Alchemy, 5 scoring units, 1 big block of Barbarian, 2 Barb Osman. He has then a big unit of Chosen Knight of Slot, 5 of them, which are quite expensive but also really strong, 3 Feldrak with a great weapon, then he has a piece of chaff and 2 Chosen Chariot of Lust. We were playing all the ground on Counter Trust, so as you can see, and it's often the case with Counter Trust, you're quite happy to start dropping, and even more now because all the ground, if I'm able to drop something in the middle, that could push my opponent back by quite a lot. And on the right side you have the spell selection of both players. I think here worth mentioning the fact that my opponent didn't elect to pick the R target one on one or both of his Exalted Herald. I felt having picked the hard target 1, it could open a bit more the ability for the Exalted Herald to play within the range or the potential range of the blunderbusses. So that's something I would have considered if I were him. Matchup analysis. So yeah, his main threat for me are the Chosen Knights and Exalted Herald. I have the Overlord, which is a very good counter to the Exalted Herald. And then for the Chosen Knight, I know that basically I need to kill 2 to make them much more manageable for me. So if they are too much of a threat, I have to find magic and shooting to reduce them. Won't be easy for Warrior of the Dark God to engage my big unit. I have a lot of bodies, a lot of wounds, steadfast, a lot of unit on the table as well. So basically as long as I avoid combo charges, I should be fine. And in this combination, the addition of the chariot could be the extra damage that he could be seeking. So I'm going to try to target those chariots if I'm able to. And the Barbarian block, yeah, I was feeling that since he's playing that, we play all the ground. This meant that the General Exalted Herald will probably be quite central to give leadership to this block, meaning he's going to be less risk or more risk averse with one of the Exalted Herald, I felt. So something just to keep in mind when I'm deploying. Estimation, I felt the matchup slightly positive, obviously always risky and depending on turn 1, but still I have all the tools to deal with his units. It's more or less a combination of the amount of risk that he's willing to take, and then if I'm able to counter his tentative of aggression, if he made some. Sorry, deployment is a blurry picture, but it happened the following. So he won the roll for side, he gave me the impassable in the middle. After that, I elected to drop the first drop, which was a unit of blunderbuss here in the middle to push him back on all the ground. And as you can see, I'm really close to the middle, and I'm basically countering the effect of the impassable, which is more or less nothing on me. He started then to deploy on the right side Barb Horseman 20 away from them, which then I elect to place the Bastion here on the left. I started to think that on the left side I wanted to have some flaming, so I needed to keep in mind the effectivity of the Alchemy Attribute from the Bastion, which is 18 from them. So I had already in mind what I wanted to do, which also allows me to push him further back here on the left flank. And I felt also it could be hard for him to drop some Barbarian because of the lake here in this part of the map. So the Bastion should be pretty much safe from combo charge, including Barbarian. That could be the main threat. Okay, so that was my second drop. After that, he dropped even here more to the left, the second unit of Barb Horsemen. I elected to drop, I think, the Giant here on the far right, and then he plays the Dogs, and then I drop for first turn. So I place here Kadim Incarnate, the Overlord on the far left, within range of the Alchemy. Here I have my Lugar, so 4 scoring unit in the middle, Vassal Levies. And then far right, a bit out of the bubble and out of the flaming range, Troik Anointed Great Weapon, and the Giant that's going to try to be annoying on this right flank. My opponent counter deployment, he plays 1 Chariot here, 2nd Chariot here, the General Exalted Herald, the Dogs, Barbarian. We have then the Mage and the 2nd Exalted Herald, Barb Horseman. This is the unit of Chosen Knight, and here far left we have Barb Horseman, Feldrak Elder. So let's move on to a better picture. This one is much better. My opponent, by the way, is playing an amazing, gorgeous army. My turn 1. Let's move on. So I was able with my Giant to find a very nice sweet spot behind the hill, which achieves multiple things. But first of all, what can charge a Giant? Only the Barb Horseman, which I was feeling confident about, and then I place multiple counter charge. In case he do that, he needs then to worry about potential overrun, and this could potentially be really complicated for him. What it achieves for me, first of all, an offensive position that will force him to block any additional march move around his deployment. That could be quite annoying, and as you will see, it will be. And at the same time, it's reducing the march range of the Chosen Knight heavily, because they don't see me, so they can only march here forward, but they cannot march full speed forward. So it's like blocking him at the same time. So really like that position. And I'm seeing the flank of those Barbarian, meaning depending on what he does, I could even threaten with a flank charge, which could be juicy. So yeah, really love the positioning of this Giant. What I had to consider is the fact that I could potentially fail a march check on a 7. It's really 50-50. If I fail it, then I would just have to move back 7 and then prepare a flee pass, which is not so much an issue. Jump the BSB to rally, 8 rollable or 9 rollable, and that would be fine. So I felt definitely risk reward worth it to place it that way. And the rest, just push forward, put 3 scoring unit on the middle. And as you can see, since the left flank is quite weaker, then I push centrally, looking towards the right, because that's the main strength. He elected not to put that much scoring unit in the middle, so I will have a huge advantage on all the ground. So he kind of abandoned it from the deployment here. It doesn't feel that he can go for it. At least that's how I interpret it when I see the chosen scoring chosen of slot, that his better scoring unit so much far right and not in the middle. I felt he's not going to play that much for all the ground. So I'm like feeling I'm almost starting the game at 13. Left flank, I felt the Overlord against those guys that have Hatred, Strength 7 is not a good matchup, so I fly the Overlord all the way here, or I march the Overlord all the way here, behind the hill, doesn't see me, and then I can threaten the middle of the ground and also zoning the Exalted Herald. So I felt this is a good positioning, which allows then my Incarnate to zone the left flank. Yeah, that was about it. So I just went slightly on the hill to have a line of sight at him. And Magic Phase I was in range of the dogs, so I wanted to panic them potentially. Got a breast weapon, kill 2 dogs, he passes the 9 check, and then I got Rot within, I think on an Exalted Herald. His turn 1. So as you can see, most of his attention is to adapt to the positioning of the Giant, so he has to reform the Barbarian to give me a front, move those guys forward, but not too much. Here doesn't not leave me too much space that I cannot move in between. Then the Exalted Herald is here, the Barbarian Horseman I have to hide to not be charged by my Giant. And if I move here 14 in between, the Chariot is looking at me basically. So as you can see, I'm like occupying his concentration, his forces, force him to adjust with 2/3 of his army. So already amazing job from the Giant. Left flank, he decided not to respect the Incarnate with his 3 Feldrak, which I felt quite interesting. I have a charge on 8 Swift, so we will see if I take it. And then those guys make a complicated will and reform to try to give me a very long charge, but at the same time maybe march within, but not seen by the Overlord, all that stuff that is not so easy to achieve. Yeah, let's move on to Magic. He got Grave Call, did 1 wound to my Overlord. Yeah, it's Strength 5, I have Lucky Charm plus, Look at Eyes plus Ward Save, so 4 up, 2 reroll and Ward Save. But he got 1 wound through. My turn number 2, I passed the march check. First I charge with the Incarnate on 8 Swift. I got that charge. I'm able to then place the Overlord as a counter charger in case he... So no matter what, I felt even if I fail the charge, not much happens. I have 18 wounds, Supernal. He could charge me the turn after. I just have to place the Overlord nearby as a counter charger and then I would be fine. So I felt this is a fight that I should be winning, if not the first turn, because of the special rule of the Feldrak. I measured before that I will be, with a reform of the Bastion, I will be within 18 of those guys, forcing him to use the Binding Scroll to avoid the reroll or to cancel the force reroll to wound from my flaming attack. So I won't do that much due to that rule and the use of the Binding Scroll, but at the same time Binding Scroll will be out and I will do some wounds, he will do some wound back. I have leadership 10, I'm going to be steadfast, so I should be fine. And yeah, right flank is mainly about denying him, as you can see, a potential aggression, so I'm in position, he has no charge or very long charges. I have counter charge set up, the only thing he can contact I think were the Lugars, where I have double counter charge in the flank, so I'm not too worried about that. And I push forward to continue Magic the dogs. I know that Chaff could be a key. I want to threaten the General as well, so that's a bit my target. Magic phase is going to Binding Scroll, the Attribute of Alchemy. I get a Mark for Doom on his General, is going to pass the Ward Save. And then with the Breast Weapon and the Attribute, I'm going to kill 4 dog out of 5, so 1 remaining. He passes the 9 check. Close combat. I don't have the stat because Dice Engine doesn't feature the force to reroll to wound. But basically on average I should do between 3 and 4 wounds. I'm going to do the 4 wounds to kill one of the model, which is quite important because it reduces his number of attack from 10 to 7. Then he has 7 attack on the 3+2+. I have a Ward Save 5 up. He managed only to do 1 wound, so he fluff. I did 4, so he breaks on the first turn, which wasn't expected from me. He passes the panic here, I restrain, he flee off the board and I can turn around. So yeah, wasn't the outcome that we both expected, but nice for me because I can turn around and push toward the middle from turn 3, so that's quite nice. But I think overall it was against the, how can I say, the macro of the game or the spirit of this left flank, because his main goal is to slow me down on the left, and by pushing that much forward and leaving me with a charge, he was taking too much risk and not slowing me down anymore. So I think he would have been better a couple of inches backwards and just zoning me. There is no need to rush on this left flank, which is just easier for me now because I'm in a position that I already dealt with the left flank, so I can push towards the middle and establish a strong battle line, which is going to be even harder for him to attack me. His turn 2 uses his single dog to chaff or stop a bit the advance of my blunderbuss, avoid that I can march forward. Those guys, they move away. I think they fail potentially the march check and they just move forward. And then he retreat, also the Exalted Herald that cannot move here to the left due to the situation. Here he checked a bit, but cannot escape any line of sight, cannot push that much forward, so he move a bit the slot guy and the rest just reposition. In the Magic phase, he got nothing too crazy. I think he failed the Grave Call, and he failed also Drought Within, so it wasn't a great Magic phase, and I get the first point for all the ground. My turn 3, I elected not to charge because I felt if he flees that could put me out of position and then in a danger zone where then I can get multi-charge, which is still the main risk, so always something to keep in mind. When you see a charge, think about the consequences of a failed charge, of a flee reaction from your opponent, of a failed restraint potentially. All that stuff matter a lot. And in that case, I didn't want to risk him to just take the flee, and then I would be in the middle of the map, multi-charged by a lot of stuff and losing all control on the game. So I just stay where I am, and I'm going to shoot with the shot of those guys that reformed the dogs. And here I put the bastion within front arc of the bastion. I have those guys that I can magic and shoot, so try to get rid of them. Pushing hard with the incarnate to block them as well. And then I reposition the overlord to basically support this part of the map where I'm more in danger. I move back with those 2 units, reform and moving, just to provide unchaffable countercharge in case he wants to come in with the slot guy. I will be steadfast 9 rollable. I will have countercharge in the flank. So it would be most likely dead Chosen Knight. So I'm quite happy with that. And I still have my chaff available. Still 3 scoring in the middle. It's going to be really hard for him to contest that. So I'm feeling good about the game. Magic phase, between magic and shooting, I think I got a breast weapon plus the shooting. I killed the 8 horsemen, and then with the 10 shots, I managed to kill the single dog. So continuing to grab some points. He's turn 3, still doesn't manage to get any charge. Reposition the Exalted a bit forward, try to push a bit, but it's kind of hard now. Without chaff, he has no chaff that he can really activate on the flank he wanted to push. I'm too far away to get chaffed. I have good countercharge setup, so if he pushes, he's threatened by multi-charge, which is too much even for an Exalted Herald. So definitely too risky for him, and he doesn't feel taking that much risk. In the magic phase, he failed the Mark for Doom, and I dispel, I think, the Grave Call, and maybe got a breast weapon that didn't do much. My turn 4, so I'm 2 up on all the ground. I chaffed the Chosen Knight because it started to be risky in case he multi-charged the Lugar. That's the main threat, like I told you. And I needed another turn to reposition the Overlord. And now that I reposition, if he charged into that, I have the Overlord as a counter to the Exalted Herald. So that turn was kind of bought by the positioning of my chaff, which allows me to move a bit forward, but not that much. Those guys move a bit more up, reposition the Overlord, reposition also Giant and the Anointed to zone. And the magic phase, I get Mark for Doom, managed to do 1 wound to his Chosen Chariot, and that was about it. His turn 4, he charges my chaff with his Barbarian Horseman. He felt he didn't want to come into the zone where I could get full blunderbuss on him, and that could be a huge threat. Also, Lugar not that far away anymore, so he felt that could be too risky. So he just charged in the flank with those Barbs Horsemen, repositioned the rest in the magic phase. He got a Grave Call on 4 dice, card number 1, and I think this is a huge risk. Not really worth it on my Overlord. He got another wound, but I mean, small chance to kill the Overlord here. Also a small chance, but to lose 1,000 points on the miscast, card number 1, I think in a KG game like that wasn't worth it. Close combat, yeah, my Vassal are going to shine. I killed like 2, he did like pretty much nothing or wound. I lost, but not that much, like by 1, and I managed to hold and reform, so that wasn't expected. I think I lost no wounds. Yeah, I think he did nothing, and I killed 2, and I had banners, so I had the charge in the flank. I think it was even like a tie combat, so crazy outcome here, which is very good news for me because I can reform in the front. I'm continuing to chaff the Chosen Knight, which puts me in a safe end of the game. I push a bit forward. Here I'm staying cautious. I move out with the general, the Overlord, because I don't need him anymore, and I don't want to give away any point. And here we stay like we are because the one that gets the charge going to be in a good spot for that combat, so I cannot get charged because he would get through me. So I need still to be aware of that. Magic phase, I managed to do 3 wounds on his Chariot, so he's down to 1 wound, I guess. He saves himself on the attribute that was cast. Close combat, I killed some more, but he sticks. His turn, he moved back, so he elected to limit points. He went into point conservation, so he moved that back. He is looking that way down. Magic phase, he got Mark for Doom that did 3 wounds to my Giant, so which was nice for him. Close combat, I killed the Barbarian, and I turn around to march that way and make him have no charge. And then his last turn, he just pushed forward to get the magic. He had no charge. And he's going to do, I think, maybe a wound to the Giant, but he's not getting any points off me. So quite happy about the game. I took the Feldrak, I took the dogs, I took the 2 unit of barbed Oxman thanks to the vassal levies. I didn't give away the points of the levies, and I got half of the chosen chariot. He saved himself on a couple of attributes from fire, so he saved half point, but doesn't matter. It's still enough for 13. That moves on to a 16 thanks to all the ground. What can I say about the game? So happy to get the first turn. It's a decisive role, important role on counter trust. Obviously, he chose to minimize and never take risk to contest all the ground. Would have been interesting to see if it's doable or not, but I think it's still a high risk, potentially high reward, but it could also go very wrong for Warrior of the Dark God. Once the Chaff and the first resources died, it was even harder for Warrior of the Dark God to start a push. The dicey combat turn 2, but I think no matter what, I'm going to come out as a winner. It's just a question of time, but Steadfast, Leadership 10, Counter Charge, 2 turns of combat after, much more wound. I have 18 wounds with a ward save, he has only 12 wounds. So no matter what, I was going to win that combat. Turn 4 War of the Dark God, surprisingly solid vassal levies that allowed me to get 16 instead of 15. And that giant, was really happy about the giant. It's what I know already. I use enough giant with Ogre Khan the previous couple of years on the weak flank. Always loved the giant. So I wasn't disappointed by the giant, what I was able to do with him on the early stages of the game. I think it caused some trouble for the warriors. He lost like a full turn because of the giant, and that was quite precious, I felt. Guys, that's all for this battle report. I hope you liked it, and talk to you soon on the channel about another game. Bye.